Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Setting my timer. How's everyone doing? If you noticed, we weren't on this morning. Sorry to those who were trying to join and could not reach me. I was in bed. And honoring my body. My body said, nope, we're not getting up today this early. And I said, all right, I surrender because I know what happens when I fight back, right? I don't know if y'all ever fought your own body. My body got hands, okay? My body would whoop my ass. So I said, I'm gonna let you win. On today, I didn't really know what I wanted to get into today, right? What type of creative training thoughts have I come across lately? And two things kind of came to mind. One being, what does it mean to do something? What does it mean to follow through? What does it mean to start and finish something? And the other thing I wanted to get into was spiritual health. I don't really talk about spiritual health. I wanted to talk about spiritual health and why does it even matter, right, to artists? Why is spiritual health important to your creative process? All right, let's get into it. So, following through, right? You ever started a project and didn't just didn't do it, just didn't finish? Sometimes when I don't finish a project, I take it as I don't really want to do this right now, right? Before it had a lot to do with follow through, but now I'm at a place where if I don't finish a project, I check in with myself. Was this something that I actually wanted to do? Am I forcing myself to do this, right? Is there something else? Did another idea, pop in my head? And am I turning this fun project into punishment? I'm very mindful of doing that because I used to turn my fun projects into chores, right? And we don't want to do that. You don't want your creative process to be a chore. And that's kind of how we're taught, right? We're taught to go to work even if we don't want to, right? Even if we're not making the type of money that the CEO is making, but we're doing a lot of work, we're told to show up anyways, right? We don't want to do that with our art at all. And following through, I got to this place, right, where I'm no longer punishing myself for not following through because I defined what following through means for me. Every morning I make my bed. That's not something that I always did in life, but it's something that I've been doing for a few years now. And it was hard at first to do my bed every day. It was hard. Um, but a few of my mentors kind of helped me see it this way. If I'm going to sleep and I wake up, right, and I say, okay, I went to bed and I woke up, and that is the task. I I can either include making the bed as the task of going to bed, or I could just say going to sleep and waking up, that's the whole task, right? So I had to, I don't know, did that even make sense? They helped me see, in other words, they helped me see that making the bed is part of the task of going to sleep, right? They were like, if you were in your bed and there were no bed sheets, you would feel like you're not going to bed yet, right? Until you put something on the bed, right? It's like it's part of the task of going to sleep, having bed sheets, right? And so, I mean, if you don't have bed sheets, so be it. There are many times where I've left, I forgot that I had to put the bed sheets in the dryer and I just went to bed, right? But I started including making the bed as going to sleep, as part of the task of going to sleep, going to bed. And that's what helped me make the bed. So let's say for cooking, right? when you make a meal. If for me, I'm done when there's nothing on the stove. I don't necessarily have to do the dishes, but I've told myself like part of cooking, part of making a meal means getting everything off the stove, just wiping it down. Now I made the whole meal, right? You kind of have to, it is kind of tricking yourself in a way at first because making the meal, like the stove has nothing to do with the meal. Well, it does, right? Because I had to use it to cook. But to eat, I don't need to clean the stove, right? But I had to tell myself, like, no, this is part of the whole thing. You get what I'm saying? And so when I think about art, when I think about creating something, right? When I think about making a shirt, right? When I make a shirt, it's not done when I make the shirt for me. I still have to make the things for packaging. That counts for me as the whole making the shirt so that I can follow through. Um, yeah, it's just conditioning yourself to or redefining what the task is, right? If it's going to bed, making the bed is part of the task. If it's making a shirt, doing the packaging is part of making the shirt. And I had to tell myself that so that I can follow through because there were a lot of things that I was leaving unfinished, which is fair and natural now, especially with um, all of us in our age who experience ADHD, all of us in our age who um, maybe grew up with people who didn't have the time to follow through, right? My parents didn't have the time to follow through with some things, okay? And or the means or the finances, right? To follow through sometimes. And we pick up some of those habits, we pick up those things that we learned, and that's fine. But if it's not working for you, if it's not helping for you in today, I would encourage you to shift that a little bit, right? Shift, shift that. We all have the power to make our lives a little easier, right? We all have the power to change the stress levels of our future. I do a lot of the things that I do when it comes to cleaning, when it comes to creating, when it comes to reimagining what follow through means, is really me protecting my future peace. Truly. I don't making the bed, like I don't clean because I like to clean. I'm gonna get that straight. I don't clean because I like to clean. I clean because I don't like to be stressed. And I know that maybe I'm not stressed now while I'm looking at the mess, but later it's going to be a problem. And so I look out for my future self, right? I look out, the future is inevitable. Later is always going to happen. That's one thing that's always going to happen. Later is always going to happen. 10 minutes went by. That was inevitable, right? Later is always going to happen. Later is always going to happen. And so it's like, what am I going to do to make sure that my later is a little peaceful, right? I'm gonna make the bed because then later when I get in the bed and it's all cozy, or later when I have to do things in the room, I'm not, stressed because I left this thing unfinished, right? Or sometimes for me, uh, physical messes, visual things that I can see that are a mess make me, scrambled brain. They create messes in my mind. Um, and so maybe, maybe I'm good now looking at the bed, but later I don't want to have a stressed mind, right? I don't want to have a messy brain. And so I'm gonna make the bed now to look out for future me. And that's the same with shirts, right? I know if I'm making a shirt, I know I'm gonna have to ship it eventually, hopefully, right? Hopefully I have customers and I'm gonna have to ship this thing, this shirt or this sweatshirt. I'm making sweatshirts right now. I'm gonna have to ship that. And so I'm gonna need packaging, right? So I'm looking out for my future self. And I guess that kind of we can go into the spiritual health, spiritual well-being part that I wanted to get into because I've been thinking about artists and um, what a big task I'm asking of artists by starting Militia. I'm asking artists to reimagine the future and build it. That's a huge task. And it's something that cannot get done if you're not right within, right? What does Lauren Hill say? How you gonna win if you ain't right within? How you gonna win if you ain't right within, right? It takes a lot of spiritual courage to create, to see something and follow through, and to put it out into the world, right? Sometimes we create things and we don't pat ourselves on the back because we're not right within, right? So I want to make sure that while I'm deploying all these people and I'm asking you to go and create your future, um, I want to make sure to emphasize, to highlight spiritual well-being, spiritual health, because how are you going to create and be well if you're not well spiritually right now, right? And to be well spiritually means a lot of things, but I will put it in this way. I will put it in this way. I'll try to make it a little simple. Are you okay with yourself as you are? Are you okay with yourself as you are? Are you okay with asking for help? Are you okay with denying help if it's not the help that you need? Are you okay with denying was probably not the word. Are you okay with setting boundaries? That's kind of more what I wanted to say. Are you okay with saying no to somebody when it doesn't fit, uh, when it isn't in alignment with you and your well being, right? These are things that are not easy for us. These are things that don't come easy for us. I think a big part of this is we are living in times of grand entertainment, and we have been for a while. I would say since the 50s. Um, Entertainment has taken over uh, how we gather in society, and sometimes those things that entertain us teach us how to be spiritually unwell, right? Because they're entertaining, right? You're watching something, you're watching two people fight, Bad Girls Club. It's entertaining, but at the same time, they are spiritually unwell, right? And even though we don't want to be like that, we're humans, right? What we see is what we believe. And so we've been indoctrinated to be spiritually unwell in a way, right? Because we're watching things constantly. And now with phones, we're really watching things all the time. It's not just late night TV, it's TV all the time. And so we want to be mindful of the things that we brought with us while being entertained. Um, I was going to get into it deeper, but I see we are already 15 minutes in, and I'm not going to start something that I know I can't finish. So I'm going to just leave that at that, even though I already started it, but I'm going to cut it there. I'm going to cut it there, leave some room for thought, um, let you think about what ways, um, what ways can you uh, change, follow through, like sorry, I'm going to re-say that. In what areas in your life can you redefine follow through? In what areas of your life can you redefine follow through so that you're taking care of your future? In what areas in your life are you restructuring follow through so that you can take care of future you? And in what ways do you feel like you can get some more spiritual guidance, spiritual help, spiritual clearance? I don't know. I don't have a word for that, but whatever comes to mind is exactly what was supposed to come to mind. I thank you again for listening and for gathering with me. Um, like always, I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear or see or read what parts stood out to you. And I will see you all next week. Oh, I sent this in the email. I always have a little at the end. I send a email with the Militia Street Gear Instagram page that I am growing. I am planning on turning these Monday morning videos into maybe an ebook, into something that I can share on the page for how do I say this? Like each video is 15 minutes, but I want to do something where out of one video I can make maybe 5 posts, right? That will help other artists who might not be watching this with you every Monday morning, but can receive the guidance on the Instagram page and share it and whatnot. I'm also thinking of turning when they're all done, turning this into like a program, into some type of an ebook, maybe a workbook. Um, so yeah, just wanted to put that out there, and I love y'all, and I'll see you next week.